I tried to turn that job down.
Are you serious?
Multiple times.
That's so funny.
And I was like, I know they talk so much politics on the show and I'm not comfortable with that, so no.
I stopped calling it a lie.
Okay.
Well, here's what it says. It's a precedent for all of us to open our eyes because we've elected someone who is in a similar situation, who didn't have a drug problem, who knew what he was doing, who clearly stood and said, I can do this. And he did it.
Have you ever noticed how some talk shows claim to showcase a variety of opinions yet feel more like echo chambers? Yep, The View. I'm looking at you. And if you think I'm exaggerating, wait until we dive into Candace Cameron Bure's startling revelations about her time on that show. Trust me, behind the scenes, it was less daytime entertainment and more political Hunger Games. Here's the setup. You probably remember Candace from Full House. She spent 2 years on The View as the show's token conservative. And in today's climate, being the token anything is basically being a punching bag. From the start, she didn't even want the role. She tried repeatedly to decline, saying, nope, I'm not comfortable with all the politics. But producers weren't taking no for an answer. They promised it would be fun, full of celebrity gossip, and generally enjoyable. To sweeten the deal, they offered to fly her back and forth weekly between LA and New York. On paper, it sounded perfect. Free flights, a massive platform, and a daily spot on national TV. Here's the kicker. They weren't being honest.
Tried to turn that job down.
Are you serious?
Multiple times.
That's so funny.
And I was like, I know they talk so much politics on the show and I'm not comfortable with that, so no. And then they came back and they were like, we're actually switching it. It's going to be more pop culture, more evergreen topics. We're not really going to talk about politics that much. And it was like, okay. And then I was like, well, I live in LA and I'm not moving to New York, so no. And they said, we'll fly you back and forth every week. We'll pay for the tickets every week.
The biggest open door.
They just kept upping the ante. Like everything I tried to say no to, they had a solution.
The show's focus on pop culture, gone. Irrelevant topics, barely registered. Politics took over, and it never let up. Who was dropped in the middle of this storm? That's right, Candace. If you've ever watched The View, you know the setup: 5 seats, 5 women, supposedly 5 perspectives. In reality, it usually means 4 liberals squaring off against 1 lone conservative. Her words, when they even made it through the barrage of yelling, cheering, and interruptions, were often drowned out entirely. Trying to have a fair discussion in that environment, it's like putting a sumo wrestler on one end of a seesaw and a child on the other. Technically, it's a balance, but good luck seeing it work.
I'm not wrong because I don't know too much about The View, but I've seen definitely like some controversial clips online or on YouTube. Yeah. That's a primarily liberal audience.
Oh yeah, it is. That whole show started and it's called The View because it's supposed to be 5 different viewpoints.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much one viewpoint.
That's what I picked up.
Yeah, there's usually like one token conservative. So I was that conservative for 2 years on this show.
But going into it, you knew that you were going to be that kind of token.
Candace revealed that to be ready for any of the 80 potential topics each episode could throw at her, she would spend up to 4 hours every night preparing. 80 topics every single day. Imagine cramming for an exam with questions you don't even know in advance. That was her life for 2 years. And the emotional strain, almost as intense as the preparation itself.
How did you prepare for each and every episode?
Girl, I have never prepared like I have prepared for that show in my life, okay? You basically get a packet of about 80 topics the night before because they're all current events. They keep moving and changing, whatever happens in the news cycle. So I would spend probably a minimum of 4 hours each night researching all 80 topics so I could understand what I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And then on the morning of, with the hosts and the producers, they break it down. We go through all 80 topics and then pinpoint maybe 7 or 8 of those that we're actually going to discuss on this show.
The tension, she said, was unlike anything she had ever experienced, and it didn't stop there. Often, the producers had already decided what she should say, leaving her unable to express her true thoughts. All that effort, and for what? The platform felt more like a tightly scripted stage than a space for genuine discussion.
There was only one type of stress that I've ever felt in my life that came from that show. It was so difficult. And to manage that emotional stress was very, very hard. Felt like I was going into a show that I didn't have a clear opinion about or nervous to talk.
This isn't a new problem. Take today's token, conservative Alyssa Farah Griffin. She rarely pushes back, not because she lacks the will, but because the system doesn't allow it. How can you be yourself when every audience reaction is hostile and the co-host cast you as the villain of the day?
The thing that really pisses me off about this is, if y'all really cared about children, where are the tax credits? Where's the paid family leave? Where's the free health care?
Yep, she's demanding tax credits, but now that the Trump administration is coming through with some relief, she ain't happy.
So as birth rates continue to decline in America, the White House is looking into offering $5,000 cash bonuses, expanded access to IVF, along with other incentives for women to have more babies. Why? And I am incredibly insulted by this because clearly they don't know how women's bodies work.
Oh, she's so insufferable, isn't she?
And then there's Whoopi Goldberg, typically at the center of every heated debate. Sometimes it even seems like she convinces herself not to challenge certain narratives, like the coverage of Hunter Biden, to maintain her position as the show's moral compass.
So it was really challenging, but I did as much prep work as I could. Felt like I was in college or in high school or whatever every night. And then I had a couple really incredible, really faithful friends that were with me by phone every morning. So when I knew the decided on topics, and politics is not my strong suit, or at least it wasn't then. I know a whole lot more about politics now, but I was really learning politics while I was doing that show because we just weren't a family that ever talked about politics at home. So I had a couple of very faithful friends in my life that committed to that 1 hour in the morning of my prep time, because that's about...
It all makes sense now. The producers never intended for there to be a thoughtful conversation. What they wanted was headlines, viral clips, and spectacle. Think about it. As a producer, what draws more attention? Whoopi Goldberg debating Trump for the 100th time that week? Or a calm discussion about the economy? The answer is obvious. Ratings were the real motivation. Trump had to be mentioned in every segment, their favorite lightning rod. Whether the topic was celebrity divorces or cooking tips, as soon as his name came up, chaos erupted. And that chaos didn't stop at the stage, it infected the audience. The studio audience would always sigh, groan, or roll their eyes at me, Candace recalled, no matter how thoughtful or perfectly reasonable my points were. This wasn't accidental. The crowd was curated to act as a live jury, ready to cheer anything left-leaning and mock anything conservative. Imagine trying to share your perspective every day while being treated like the enemy, not just by your co-hosts, but by the audience itself. It wasn't a debate. It was an ambush.
You have different reactions when you're put under pressure. So they talk about fight or flight. Like, do you fight? Are you ready to go for it? Or do you want to take off? Like, you want to hide and you want to run. And I would say I am a flight person.
Really?
I don't love conflict. I'm not afraid of it. I like resolution. So I'm always happy to have the discussion because I like directness and I like resolution. But I'm not like... My gut reaction is not to fight with people. I want to take a hike. So with that, I think my disposition helped me in that when people really come at me, I don't get super riled up. Like, I don't put on the boxing.
Is the show genuinely promoting diversity, or is it just carefully packaged propaganda with commercial breaks? They claim to represent a range of opinions, yet anyone daring to disagree gets attacked. I'll leave that question for you to answer in the comments. Candace Cameron Bure is far from the only one to experience this. There's a pattern. Every conservative who has ever sat at that table ends up silenced, burnt out, or leaves. Why? Because sharing your perspective isn't really part of the job. It's a test of survival. Sunny Hostin, Joy Behar, and Whoopi Goldberg operate as if the stage is a cage match. They interrupt, mock, and overwhelm you until the audience forgets what you even said, no matter how persuasive your argument. It's theater, not conversation. Candace naturally avoids confrontation. She doesn't like conflict and prefers calm discussion and thoughtful conclusions. But on The View, quiet reasoning doesn't sell. The producers want drama. They want shouting. They want headlines like, Whoopi destroys conservative co-host. Perfect fodder for Instagram clips. It's a successful business strategy, but not for the poor soul stuck in the hot seat.
I'm calling it a lie.
Okay,
well, here's what it says. It's a precedent for all of us to open our eyes because we've elected someone who is in a similar situation, who didn't have a drug problem, who knew what he was doing, who clearly stood and said, I can do this. And he did it. So I think, for many, many reasons, this is very different than any other situation.
Then there's the hypocrisy. Every effort by Whoopi Goldberg and her team was made to downplay the Hunter Biden story, yet the moment his name came up, it was DEFCON 1. They demanded full investigations, arrests, and probes. The double standard couldn't be more glaring. Millions of viewers watch this every day, absorbing it without realizing they're being fed a narrative rather than participating in a genuine conversation. That's the danger. The View functions less as a talk show and more as a cultural megaphone. By the end, the audience walks away thinking they've witnessed a fair discussion. In reality, the megaphone has amplified one side while silencing the other, leaving viewers with the illusion of dialogue while they've really been watching a political spectacle.
I don't miss The View at all. I love being on talk shows. I love hosting talk shows,
Right.
but that was a hard job every single day in, day out, talking politics.
Yeah.
So-
And Christianity.
Yeah. And my faith, that was the easiest part for me, to be able to talk about my faith and share my faith. But I'm happy right now not to be on that show and talk about lighter topics.
She said the experience was exhausting in a way she had never encountered before, even though she genuinely enjoys hosting and talking shows, and who could really blame her? 2 years of constant pressure, bias, and stress takes a toll. It's draining. Candace even admitted that surviving on the show meant learning more about politics than she ever thought necessary. With figurative sharks circling every day, imagine being thrown into the deep end like that and expected to swim. Here's the main takeaway. Divergent opinions aren't really the point. It's all about controlling the story. Conservatives are often brought on to be tokenized, silenced, or humiliated rather than genuinely heard. The talking points are scripted by producers, the audience is set against you, and the end result is a broadcast that looks like a conversation but is really a political echo chamber with co-hosts ganging up to dominate the narrative. I'd love to hear from you. Do shows like The View genuinely contribute to political discussion, or do they just make divisions worse? Share your thoughts in the comments. Before we wrap up, one thing Candace said really stood out. She admitted she isn't naturally combative. She values clarity, honesty, and commitment, even if controversy isn't her strength. That's the key distinction. Real discussions should focus on understanding and problem solving, not shouting people down. Conservatives on that stage will never be fully heard until that changes. So, what do you think? Is The View beyond saving, or is there a chance it could become more balanced? Would you like to see a version where every viewpoint is fairly expressed? Let me know. If you enjoyed this analysis, please hit the like button, subscribe for more, and share this video with anyone who should know the truth about The View. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.